Alright, off we go. It's the Ryan Hartson Show on BWC Internet Radio. I am Ryan Hartson. I thought I'd fit in a quick NCAA tournament segment here. I got two topics for you as we get rolling into the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. We've had a lot of fun in this tournament, a lot of crazy upsets, a lot of just wacko games. This has been so much fun to just sit and watch. But if you filled out 20 brackets like I did, you were in a feverish, just complete, you were having a really hard time. I can't really put words together right now. But you were having a really hard time trying to keep track of all these games, trying to scratch off teams that have been eliminated. And my bracket, let me put it this way. As you know, on JMFPSP, I am doing a bracket with the guys, Tim and Corey. Well, Corey's not really, the guys, if you will. He's just a guest that never leaves. But, we did this bracket together. If you lose the bracket wager, you have to eat liver, which is in my opinion, a punishment that is worse than death. And if it turns out that liver tastes good, you have to do a shot of vinegar. And you cannot sit there with a straight face and tell me that you think vinegar tastes good. It plain and simply doesn't. Vinegar is the most disgusting thing on the planet. It is completely nasty. And to smell it is one thing, but to chug it, ugh, I mean, literally, a shot of vinegar. Like, I'm going to get a shot glass out, I'm going to fill it with vinegar, and have Tim, Corey, or myself do a shot of vinegar if it turns out that liver tastes good. Okay, and I don't want to eat liver. I hate liver. I've detested it my entire life. Just looking at it makes me cringe. I'm having a really hard time with this, as is Tim, as is Corey. And, you look at my bracket, left side of my bracket is okay. Ohio State and Kentucky I have. Syracuse and Washington both lost, so they're done. I have Duke and Arizona, and the only reason I picked Arizona is because I picked Oakland to beat Texas, so really I kind of split that one. Have UConn, have San Diego State, and then the rest of my bracket is a complete mess. Had Pitt in the Final Four, as did pretty much everyone, so done there. I had Old Dominion beating Butler in the first place. Although I did have the Butler upset. I called the Butler upset on the show on Saturday. Completely called it. I said, that thing is happening. Butler is going to beat Pitt. So I called it, and it happened. Praise the Lord. And that only helped like 4 of my brackets, but whatever. So I had Butler beating Pitt. But in this one, I had Old Dominion winning in the first place. So it really didn't help me. I had Kansas State beating Wisconsin. Whoops, Wisconsin won. Had St. John's beating Gonzaga in the first place, and BYU. BYU is now playing Florida in the Sweet 16. That's a problem. And I had Michigan State beating UCLA in the first place. UCLA takes on Florida. Florida beats them. So I still got Florida. So out of my Elite 8 teams, the only ones left are Ohio State, Duke, UConn, Kansas, and Florida. Notre Dame killed Corey, by the way. Notre Dame slaughtered Corey. It was just a mess. He had them winning the whole thing. They lost in the second round. I had them in the Elite Eight. Didn't hurt me quite as bad. I haven't seen Tim's bracket. He filled it out like secretly, and then just we announced the teams. I don't have written down what his teams were. I'm pretty sure I announced them on the air because of our technical difficulties a few weeks back. But the whole thing's a mess. This whole tournament is a complete mess. I'll go through some of my other brackets. I've got 18 that are still relevant. All right. On this one, I had Kansas winning the title. This is a nice bracket. I have Arizona, thank God. I've got BYU in the Elite Eight against Kansas State. Whoops. Get rid of that one. Had Illinois beating UNLV, which is good. Kansas smoked them. Purdue lost, by the way. Purdue killed me on a few brackets. I had Purdue in the Final Four a few different times. Had them in the Sweet 16 a million. I think I had them in the Sweet 16 almost every bracket. This is interesting. I had USC in the Elite Eight. USC on this bracket. What the hell was I thinking? They lost, by the way, in the play-in game. It wasn't the first round. It was a play-in game. Let's get that very clear. They're calling the first round of the tournament the second round now, which is ludicrous. What the hell are you doing? Of course it's the first round of the tournament. Those 4 games, that wasn't a round. It was 4 play-in games. So the NCAA and CBS together have no idea what the hell they're doing scheduling this thing, number one, which is a separate issue for a different show. A show that I should have done a week ago, frankly. I had Notre Dame winning the title on this one. So that one's done. I'll put that one in a different pile. Just threw it, right? Kansas State in the Final Four on this one. This one's a mess. Georgetown and St. John's in the Final Four. Georgetown and St. John's in the Final Four. Wow. And St. John's in the national title game. Ohio State winning, though. I feel good about that, so I'll keep it. Pitt in the Final Four on this one. Carolina. This one's actually pretty good. Carolina, Kansas, and UConn in the Final Four here. Pitt, however, is in there. That one's a good bracket. That's a good bracket. Not bad. Anyway, I'm going through all these. I have a million brackets with a million different combinations of teams. Syracuse winning the title on this one. That's interesting. Okay, enough. Here's my point. The NCAA tournament, as we all saw coming, who were paying attention at least a little bit to college basketball, I wasn't quite as much this year. The NBA, for some reason, regular season basketball was more interesting to me this year. Regardless, we saw this coming. For people that were paying attention, there is just a lack of talent in college basketball right now. Whether the one and done rule is responsible, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. But, one way or the other, no matter who's responsible, there is a huge lack of talent in college basketball right now. And maybe that's good. Maybe it turns out that it's a good thing because the games are more interesting because whether it's a lack of talent or a ton of talent throughout, the talent is really close. So the games are really good. The games are really good and really close. And that's what's been going on. You saw Kentucky and West Virginia was a pretty good game. Very similar talent there. Marquette and Syracuse. I'm going to talk about the Big East a little bit later. But Marquette and Syracuse, talent was very similar. Marquette's at the bottom of the Big East. Syracuse was up to the top. Marquette with a big win. Carolina had trouble with Washington. Came down to a last-second play. Washington needed a 3. They put up a 2. I believe their best player, Isaiah Thomas, put it up. It was almost goaltending, but it would have been goaltending for a 2. Wouldn't matter. Carolina won the game, but they had a hard time with that. And here's the shocker. There's always a shocker every single year. Like Butler came out of nowhere last year, even though we kind of knew they had the history to do it. But VCU, swear to God, didn't even know VCU existed before the other day. Before Selection Sunday. And Corey, of all people, knew their name. Virginia Commonwealth University is in the Sweet 16 against Florida State. You know how bad the ratings are going to be for that game? Didn't even know Florida State was any good in basketball. And now they're in the Sweet 16. Okay, and against VCU, of all teams. And apparently VCU has a lot of talent. Killed Purdue. Absolutely slaughtered them. 94-76. That's embarrassing for Purdue because Purdue, everybody was talking Elite Eight with them, saying that they had a real chance to do great things. And Florida State embarrassed Notre Dame, 71-57. That's embarrassing as well. Not quite as much of a blowout, but they blew it open late, and that's pathetic. No harm, no foul. Pitt losing to Butler. I actually say that kind of tongue-in-cheek because there was harm and there was a foul. You foul coming down on the missed free throw, give Butler an opportunity. They split out to make 1-2. They win the game 71-70. Great game. That was the best game of the tournament so far, the most entertaining, back and forth, extremely exciting. And that was a fantastic game, absolutely fantastic. Gonzaga BYU, not much there. Gonzaga got Jimmered. Jimmer Fredette, that guy is really good. He is probably the best white guy since, Bill Walton? He's better than Tyler Hansborough. He is the best white guy in college basketball since Bill Walton on the John Wooden UCLA teams. That guy's awesome. And he's Mormon, if I'm not mistaken, which is cool. So, I'm down with cool Mormons. I know one of my closest friends is a Mormon. That's awesome. I think being a Mormon is cool because they believe in stuff that just other people would almost be afraid to say in public. And polygamy isn't any of them, by the way. If you pay attention to religion, you would know that. Anyway, not to get too off topic, Florida takes care of UCLA relatively easily. That's exciting to have Florida and BYU because Florida is a really good SEC team. They're extremely well coached. They just won back-to-back championships not too long ago. Can BYU Jimmer Florida? to get to the Elite Eight. That's interesting. BYU's really good. They're much better than I thought they would be. But like I said on Saturday, if if Jimmer Fredette scores fewer than 30 points, BYU will not beat Florida. It's that simple. BYU, they're like the Bulls. They're like, if Derrick Rose doesn't have a good enough game, they're just not going to win. That's how it is. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if your best player plays at their best, you are going to win a title. Especially in college basketball, this new lack of talent college basketball scene that we're in, I think they can take Florida. I'd probably pick Florida to win the game, but if Jimmer Fredette gets hot and drops 50, that would make things very interesting. But I think Florida has way too much talent. Is going to end up getting them. All right, so I just kind of ran through the tournament. No big deal. San Diego State UConn is a huge Sweet 16 game. Really quick, the Sweet 16 matchups, if you've missed it: Ohio State, Kentucky; Kansas, Richmond; VCU, Florida State; Marquette, North Carolina; Duke, Arizona; Connecticut, San Diego State; Butler, Wisconsin; and BYU, Florida. It's been a very interesting tournament so far, and I think it's only going to get more interesting as time goes on. So that's just kind of where we are. Just ran through the games quick. I do have one more segment for you, and that's I have moderately strong feelings about the Big East. Everybody's saying they're overrated, and I disagree, because I love disagreeing with the majority, and that's how it works. So once again, everyone is wrong. The Big East isn't overrated. I'll talk about it next. It's the Ryan Hartson Show on BWC Internet Radio.